Alright, what's up everyone? Welcome to the first ever episode of Babble on Talmud. This is very exciting. So first of all, welcome everybody. I'll just start with a few kind of technical things regarding Babble on Talmud, what it is, and things like that. In general, we're just going to be getting right to it, getting right to the daf of the day. But for now, since this is the first episode, I will just go over a few ideas about what it is and stuff. So what is Babble on Talmud? Babble on Talmud is a daf yomi shir. What that means is that there is a global kind of thing where they learn one page of Gemara every single day. Now, one page of Gemara means both sides of the page. So we're going to be doing that every single day. The shiurim in general, the classes in general, will take between like a half an hour and an hour probably. I will be uploading the classes to YouTube and to various podcasting platforms every single day, 7 days a week. So they'll be there. If there's another place that you would like to see it, let me know and we could work that out. Additionally, because these classes are going to be every single day, it could be that Shabbos will be more of a challenge because I suspect that many of the people here will not be listening to the shir on Shabbos, and therefore you'll have to reserve some time after Shabbos to listen to this shir. However, one option could be to go to a local shir on Shabbos, or if somebody, or if people want to organize like a shir wherever you are, and if somebody wants to prepare every single week, I can give you the shir in advance if that'll help you prepare. These are all good options. Additionally, if people want to have some kind of group for the people who are part of the shir and who are joining Daf Yomi, maybe if you have questions or things like that, or maybe you want to find local babblers. You can always write something in the comments or something like that, and we could put together maybe a WhatsApp group or Slack channel. Ooh, Slack could be fun, right? Everyone likes Slack. So, those are also options. Speaking of comments and things like that, you can always feel free to comment on the videos with questions or other general comments, such as if you'd like a WhatsApp group or a Slack channel. Put that in the comments. Also, I'm always available at surely@babbleontalmud.com. And I'd love to hear feedback or anything like that. Anyway, I can make the experience better for you. And of course, if ever you see me anywhere, don't be shy. Say hi. Cool. And then finally, just feel free to enjoy Babble on Talmud however you would like to enjoy it. Whether you want to join every single day as part of Daf Yomi, as a Daf Yomi shir, amazing. If you just want to listen whenever you feel like it for however long you feel like it, that's great too. But additionally, a cool thing could be, if maybe there's a Masechta that looks interesting to you and we're starting, so hop on for whatever Masechtas you want, So it's here for you. Use it how you wish. Great. Well, that's Babble on Talmud. Let's get started with Masechta Berachos. Berachos, which is the Masechta that we're starting with today, and not just us, but Daf Yomi everywhere is starting Masechta Berachos today. Berachos is kind of awesome. It's a great Masechta. It starts off with talking about Kriyas Shema. It gets into things about davening, benching, making brachos in general. It's kind of a cool Masechta. That being said, the daf that we're going to learn today is actually slightly technical and complicated. Not too bad, but a little complicated. So don't be discouraged if today's a little complicated. Maybe give it a few days, a little time, and take it from there. So without further ado, let's jump in, hey? Here we go. Brachos, Daf Beis, starting at Daf Beis Amud Aleph, by the first word of Aleph Shas. Me'e Masai, from when? Okay. Me'e Masai Kohen Shema Ba'arvin. At what point can we read Kriyas Shema at night? So there's a mitzvah to read Kriyas Shema Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, and generally accepted to be also, V'ahavta es Hashem Elokecha, and then Vayom Shemoah, and Parshas Tzitzis, Vayomer Hashem El Moshe Lemor. That there's a mitzvah to read that twice a day in the, as the pasuk says, B'shoch B'cha Uvkumecha, when you lie down and when you awake. So that means when you lie down at night, i.e. at night we read Kriyat Shema, not just before we go to sleep, but in general at night we read Kriyat Shema as part of Mariv. And we also read Kriyat Shema during the day, okay? So the question is, when we are supposed to read Kriyat Shema at night, what's the earliest that we can say Kriyat Shema, that we can read Shema, and it will be considered nighttime, and we did the mitzvah of reading Shema at night. So instead of giving us sort of an easy, straightforward answer, such as something like 8 o'clock, it doesn't say that. It kind of, to quote Radiohead and Karma Police, it talks in maths. Well, okay. So, Misha Kohanim Nichnasim Lecho B'Trumasan. When can you read Kriyat Shema at night? Well, from the time that the Kohanim go to eat their Truma. At the time that the Kohanim go to eat their Truma, that's when you can read Kriyat Shema. Great. Way to keep things complicated. So there's a few things we have to understand over here. What's Truma? Okay, Truma is basically, if you have a field, let's say you're growing wheat. Good thing to grow. You're growing wheat. So now, of course, 100% of your field is now in your possession. Now, before you can actually eat that stuff, right, at this point it's what's called tevel. That means it's untithed. You can't eat it yet. It's actually like a problem to eat it. It's like an aveira. So what you have to do is you have to do a few things. The first thing that you do is called truma. There's no official amount for how much of a tithe truma is, but it's generally accepted to be 2% of your field. You take 2% of your field and you give it to the Kohanim. You give it to a Kohen. And that's what truma is. And then after that, you take an additional 10%, you give that to the Levi, and then from what's left, you take an additional 10%, and then that, depending on the year of the Shemitah cycle, it will either be Meiser Sheni or Meiser Ani, the Seder. But that first 2% tithe, you give to the Kohen. Great. Now that tithe is holy. It's Kodesh. It needs to remain pure, and whoever eats it needs to be pure. Okay, now we're getting closer to what our Mishnah is talking about. So our Mishnah is talking about a Kohen who was impure. Okay, let's say he was a Mitzorah. Let's say he spoke Lashon Hara, Chaval. He got thrown out of the community, and now the Tsaras went away, and he is on his last day of the purification process. And on the last day of the purification process, he goes to the mikvah. Okay, now once he goes to the mikvah, here's a new concept. There's something called a Tvul Yom. Okay, what's a Tvul Yom? It literally means somebody went to the mikvah during the day, right? Or somebody who mikvahed, and now it's during the day. So what that means is that the Kohen, on the last day of his purification process, he can go to the mikvah at any point that he wants. But that doesn't make him tahor. He then has to wait until the evening. And during the interim is what's called a Tvul Yom. Okay. Now once it gets to the evening, okay, he can eat truma, okay? Before then he can't eat truma because the truma you have to be pure in order to eat it, and he's not yet pure, okay? However, once it hits the evening, at that point he can eat his truma. And what we're saying is that at the time that this Kohen can eat his truma, guess what? That's also the time that we can read Kriyat Shema. Kind of a roundabout way, and the Gemara is going to, ask why we have to say it in such a roundabout way, but that slide. Okay. So then we say, second line of the Gemara, Ad Sof Ashmura Arishona Divrei Rabbi Eliezer. And you can continue, now the window that you have to read Kriyat Shema is from when the Kohanim go to eat their Truma, which is Tzeis HaKochavim, nightfall, when 3 stars come out, right? I'll just tell you quickly right now, it's important. There's nightfall, which is when 3 stars come out. Now, before nightfall, there's also sunset, okay? From sunset until nightfall is what's called Bein Hashmashos. And there's actually different ways of understanding how long Bein Hashmashos is. But right now we're talking about nightfall, when 3 stars come out, okay? Until the end of the first watch, according to Rabbi Eliezer. And actually tomorrow we're going to learn what these watches are, how many watches there are. But Rabbi Eliezer holds that there are 3 watches throughout the night. Now these are watches of angels that they do their service and they sing songs. there are 3 different groups of these angels throughout the night. So you have to read Kriyat Shema from when the stars come out until the end of this first watch of angels. Okay? That's Rabbi Eliezer's opinion. V'chachamim omrim. The Chachamim say ad chatzos. The Chachamim say, no, you can read Kriyat Shema until midnight. Okay? Rabbi Gamliel omer ad shi'ala amar hashachar. Rabbi Gamliel says that actually you can read Kriyat Shema all night long until dawn. Okay? Now, the Gemara tells us a story. There was a story where Rabbi Gamliel's children were at some kind of a party, maybe a wedding, whatever it is. And of course, Rabbi Gamliel was awake, he was learning probably, and his children came home and they said, look, what do? We didn't read Kriyat Shema yet. It's after Chatzos. We haven't yet read Kriyat Shema. What should we do? So Amar Lohem, he said to them, Im lo ala amur hashachar, chayav v'naten likros. And he said, look, if it's not yet amur hashachar, you have a chiyuv to read Kriyat Shema. Which is interesting that they didn't know their own father's opinion, and it's interesting, like, how do we know Rabbi Gamliel's opinion? Is it from here, whatever it is? But they knew the Chachamim's opinion, the generally accepted opinion, which is that after midnight you can't read Kriyat Shema anymore. So they said to Rabbi Gamliel, they said, what should we do? And he said, look, as long as it's not yet Amur HaShachar, as long as it's not yet dawn, you could read Kriyat Shema. And he continues and he says, Velozo bilvad amru. This isn't actually the only instance where we have something that you have the mitzvah all night, but the Chachamim said that you only have until Chatzos. Whenever the Chachamim said that you only have until midnight to do something, you actually have until dawn. Hekter chalavim veivarim, mitzvah sanat sheyala amud hashachar, right? And burning of fats and limbs. What's this talking about? He's talking about if you have a korban, an animal sacrifice in the temple, and they shechted it during the day, they threw its blood onto the mizbeach during the day, but they didn't yet put it on the mizbeach itself. So they have until dawn to put it on the mizbeach. After dawn, it's what's called nosar. It's what's called, no, not nosar, it's called lina. It means that it remained throughout the entire night not on the mizbeach, and that disqualifies it. And now any korban that you're allowed to eat for one day and the following night. So, right, for all of my friends here who say Ezehu Mikoman in the morning, the korbanis. So basically, anything that it says mitzvasan liyom, right, v'nechal liyom v'layla ad chatzos, that you can eat it for that day and that night until chatzos. That's exactly what we're talking about. The truth is that you can actually read it. You can actually eat it. In fact, meikar adin until dawn. Well, then why the Chachamim say you can only eat it until chatzos if it's not really true? You can really do it until dawn. So because we want to distance people from Avera. We're concerned that if we say, look, you can eat it until dawn, they'll keep on pushing it off, and then they're going to end up not having enough time to chap arayin before dawn. So we say, do it before chatzos. That way, it'll kind of, the time pressure will encourage people to get on it quicker. I hope you enjoyed the first Mishnah of Shas. Now for the Gemara. Oh, very good. So when I explained the first line of the Mishnah, I explained, or I had to fill in because the Mishnah didn't tell us, that there's a chiyuv to read Kriyat Shema every day, in the morning and the night. But the Gemara is actually not taking that for granted and saying, one second. The Mishnah starts out by saying, Me'emasai karan Shema ba'arvin. When do we read Kriyat Shema at night? One second. First, we skipped a step here, people. It's like a computer program, right? It can't take anything for granted. If you don't describe this step 1, you can't get to step 2. So we went directly to step 2. We said, at what time do we read Kriyat Shema? What is Kriyat Shema? Is it a mitzvah to read Kriyat Shema? Do I have to read Kriyat Shema? Right? So Tana Heicha Ka'i Dekatani Me'emasai. When the Mishnah jumps in initially and says, from when do I read Kriyat Shema? What is it basing itself on? Where did it say in the first place that we have to read Kriyat Shema? That it then jumps to the next step and says, when do we read Kriyat Shema? Visu, and the Gemara asks another question. Mashna Dutani de Arvin Bereisha Lesnei the Shachar is Bereisha. Why are we starting with Kriyat Shema of the nighttime? Wouldn't it make more sense to talk about Kriyat Shema of the daytime first? Like first it's day and then it's night, right? So of course people are thinking, no, what do you mean? We're Jews. The day starts from the night before, of course, right? Seder. So, okay, the Gemara answers. Tana akra koe. Oh. So he says, look, our Mishnah is going, mehecha koe, where is it coming? Where does it say the chiyuv? It says in the Pasuk, it says in the Torah, that there's a chiyuv to read Kriyat Shema. What does it say? Dichsev b'shach b'chov kumecha. It says, right, that there's a chiyuv, let's say, to read Kriyat Shema, when you lie down, and when you get up. And as our friend Pesach Stadlen likes to say, we can feed two birds with one seed, right? Basically, from that one pasuk, we learn both things. That there's a chiyuv to read Kriyat Shema, that there's a mitzvah to read Kriyat Shema, and it also says when do you read Kriyat Shema? Twice every day, b'shoch b'cha, when you lie down, uvkumecha, when you get up, right, at night and during the day. And which one comes first? B'shoch b'cha, when you lie down at night, right? So the chiyuv of Kriyat Shema at night precedes the chiyuv of Kriyat Shema, or really the night precedes the day, or at least the Gabe Kriyat Shema, and therefore we're going in the order of the pasuk, just like the pasuk talks about b'shoch b'cha, when you lie down at night first. So therefore we're talking about me'emas ha'kohen shema ba'arvin first, and later we'll get to shacharis. Oh, v'achi katani, and this is what the Mishnah is saying. Zman Kriyat Shema d'shchiva emas. When is the Zman Kriyat Shema of b'shoch b'cha, right, of shchiva, when you lie down? Mishash kohanim nichnasan lechol b'chumasan. It's from the time that the kohanim go to eat truma. That's when you can read Kriyat Shema at night. V'iba yisema. Or, I can tell you a different reason. A different reason for what? A different reason for why we're talking about Kriyat Shema at night before we're talking about Kriyat Shema during the day. Yalif mibriyaso shel olam. Because the Mishnah is taking its cue from the creation of the world. What happened when the world was created? Dichsev vayi erev vayi voker yom echad. It says it was first evening, and then it was morning, and it was one complete day. So, so just like when the world was created, first it was the evening and then the day. So here also, when we're talking about Kriyat Shema, we're starting with Kriyat Shema at night, and then we're getting to Kriyat Shema of the day. Or, question: if we always talk about the night first and then the day, well then, ihachi seifa dekatane. Well, on Daf Yud Aleph, we have an interesting Mishnah. What does it say on Daf Yud Aleph, which we'll get to in 11 days? Dekatani b'shachar mevarich shtayim lefanea v'achas la'achareh. That in the morning, when it comes to Kriyat Shema, we have two brachos beforehand and one bracha afterwards. Can anybody tell me what the two brachos beforehand and one afterwards are? Very good. Yotzer Ma'oros, and then what was it? Oy V'Amo Yisrael, or no? Baruch Hashem, Bocher B'Amo Yisrael Be'ahava. Then afterwards you have Goal Yisrael. Uve'erev Mevarich Shtayim L'Fanei V'Shtayim L'Achareh. And then at night, can anybody see what the question is? At night, right, we read two brachos beforehand, two brachos afterwards, right? That's Hamar Varavim and Oy V'Amo Yisrael beforehand. Then afterwards it's Goal Yisrael and Shomer Amo Yisrael Lo'ad. Nu, what's the question? The question is that in that Mishnah, we're talking about the morning Shema first, and then the night Shema. I thought we always talk about night Shema first. Lesni the Arvis Bereisha. You should teach first about Kriyat Shema at night. So the Gemara answers, it's really not that big of a deal. Tana Posach be'Arvis. The Masechta started with Kriyat Shema at night. And it says, when do you read Kriyat Shema at night? And it tells you the halachos of the time frame to read Kriyat Shema at night. V'adutani b'shachris. And then there's a Mishnah of me'emas ha'kohen shema b'shachris. Right? What's the time frame for Kriyat Shema during the day? Okay. Adukoi b'shachris, and then once it was already talking about shachris, legabe, the time frame for reading Kriyat Shema during the day, so parish milei de shachris. It then went into more details about shachris, such as how many brachos before and how many brachos afterwards. V'hadar parish milei de arvis. And then once it was completely done with shachris, it then went back to fill in what it missed from arvis, which is reading, how many brachos before and how many brachos afterwards. Very good. We got up to our first two dots of Masechta Berachos. Weiter. Amar Mar. We said earlier. We said in the Mishnah. Misha shekohanim nichnasim lechol b'trumasan. When can you read Kriyat Shema? From the time that the Kohanim go to eat their truma. That doesn't necessarily tell us all that much, right? Because I have to know what time Kohanim go to eat their truma. So Michdei, Kohanim emas, ka'achle truma. When is this? When do the Kohanim go to eat their truma, right? That's really what I need to know. So the Gemara answers, Mishas Sesa Kochavim. When 3 stars emerge, when there's 3 stars at night, that's when the Kohanim go and eat their truma, and that's when we go and read Kriyat Shema. The Gemara asks, Lesne Mishas Sesa Kochavim. Wouldn't it just be easier if the Mishnah said you can read Kriyat Shema from Sesa Kochavim? So the Gemara says, Milsa agav orcha kamashmalan. It wanted to chaperine to teach me another thing. Yeah, it could have just said from Sesa Kochavim, but then all I would know is that I can read Kriyat Shema at Sesa Kochavim. But it wanted to teach me more than that. What did it want to teach me? That Kohanim emas ka'achle b'truma mishas Sesa Kochavim. That it wanted to teach me that when do the Kohanim eat truma? At night, at Sesa Kochavim. Because it's not so pasha to me. I wouldn't necessarily assume that. You know why? Because this mitzorah, right? We're talking about a kohen. Let's use mitzorah. It could have also been a zav, right? Something else, maybe a tmei meis. Although I don't know if a tmei meis, does he have to bring a korban? I'm not sure. But anyways, let's say take case of mitzorah, right? So what's the process of becoming tahor from being a mitzorah? So we said on the last day of his purification process, he goes to the mikvah. He's then a tavul yom for the rest of the day. Now, the next day, he then has to bring korbanos. The next day, he then has to bring sacrifices in the temple. Once he brings sacrifices in the temple, then he's completely pure. He can go into the temple at that point. He's completely pure. Okay? So I might think that when can the Kohen eat truma? Only the next day, once he's brought his sacrifices, at that point. But not yet the night before. So the Mishnah, by teaching us that when do you read Kriyat Shema at night? From the time that the Kohanim go to eat truma. It's like, wait, the Kohanim go to eat truma at night? Okay, I guess that they don't have to wait till the next day when they bring their korbanos in order to eat truma. They can already eat truma that night once it's nightfall. That's when you read Kriyat Shema, and that's when the Kohanim can eat their truma, right? V'akamash malan says the last thin line of the Gemara. The kapara lo me'akva. And it's teaching us that you don't need to wait until you bring the korbanos on the next day in order to eat your truma. You can even eat, the Kohanim who were tameh can even eat truma that night after Tzesa Kochavim on the night following the last day of their purification process. Kidetanya, as we learn in a Braisa. Uva shemesh v'tayr. We have a pasuk, right? What does the pasuk say? The pasuk says, it's the third pasuk on the page, Uva shemesh v'tayr. That the sun will set and he will become tahor, and then afterwards he can eat from kachim. And that pasuk is talking about a kohen who is tameh and eating truma. Okay, so we're saying if he was tameh, we're saying he just waits for uva hashemesh v'taher. We have to understand what uva hashemesh v'taher means, but when this happens, he can then eat his truma. Okay, says the first wide line of the Gemara, bias shimsho me'akvo melecho b'truma. Period. That's the end of the Braisa, at least the way I understand it. Okay? So when it says Uva Shemesh V'taher, what does Uva Shemesh mean? It means when the sun sets. Then when the sun sets and the day passes, V'taher, right? We're understanding that the day itself makes him pure Memela. So once the sun sets and the day has passed, so then he can already eat Truma. He doesn't have to wait until the next morning, the next day when he brings his korbanos. But now the Gemara asks, 1 second, how does the Brisa know this? How does the Brisa know that Uva Shemesh V'taher means that the sun will set and then it'll be tahor? Umimai, asks the Gemara in the last line of the page, Dehai Uva Shemesh Bias Hashemesh V'taher Tar Yoma. How do I know that when it says Uva Shemesh V'taher, that it means that the sun will set and then the day will have passed and immediately you can eat Truma that night? Dilma, says the beginning of Beis Beis. Bias Oro Hu, maybe means the coming of the morning on the next day. Umay V'taher tahir gabra. It means that then the person will become tahor when he then goes and brings his korbanos. And therefore actually cannot eat truma until the next day when he brings his korbanos. Oh, so why does the Brisa take for granted that it's talking about nightfall when he can eat his truma? So Amar Rabba bar Rav Shila, Rabba bar Rav Shila answers. He says, Im kain, if that were the case, that it was talking about the next day when he brings his korbanos, at that point he can eat truma. Le makra v'yitar. If it was talking about that uva shemesh, and then he brings his korbanos, it should say uva shemesh v'yitar. The sun will come on the next day, and then yitar, he will do something. He will go to the Beis HaMikdash, he will bring his korbanos, and then he will become tummy, right? It's a verb. Taher is explaining a state, right? Something that happens automatically. What's that? That's talking about uva shemesh, the sun sets, and then automatically v'taher, the day has passed, right? The day is gone. What does Rashi say? Rashi says, "Umay v'tar yoma." It's actually, I have it now goes between them these extra little Rashis here. So I'm saying v'achikam akrat lishetishka achama v'yifnei ayom v'taher mitoch chalalo shel olam. Exactly. Sheshaka legamrei dahanu tzeisak kochavim lefi shezman shkias ora mahalach hemilin kedaminim b'psachim. That meaning v'taher, that uva. The way to understand it referring to nightfall is uva shemesh, that the sun will set, right? Vitaher, and the sun will become tahor, will become pure from being in the space of the world, i.e. it'll be completely out of view of the world because it's nighttime now. And at that point, we're saying that he can eat truma. Zel. So, third line of the Gemara, my vitaher, taher yomra. What does it mean, taher? It means that the day essentially has passed, the sun is gone, and at that point the Kohanim can eat truma. Kidamri inshe, as people say, Yi'ariv shimsha ba'ad kiyoma. The sun set, the day passed, and that's that. The day became pure, or the sun became pure, whatever it is, the day passed, that's that, and that's what we're talking about over here, that sun sets, day is over, and the Kohen can now enjoy his truma. Okay, and at that point we can enjoy our Kriyas Shema. Very good. Now, b'ma'arava had the Rabba bar Rav Shila lo shmielu. So now in the west, what's the west? The west is Eretz Yisrael, right? Because Babble, I think, was like Iraq kind of thing, which is to the east of Eretz Yisrael. So west was in Eretz Yisrael. So in Eretz Yisrael, had the Rabba bar Rav Shila lo shmielu. They hadn't heard of this statement of Rabba bar Rav Shila, this brilliant statement of Rabba bar Rav Shila about if it would say, since it says Uva Shemesh v'taher, that means that it's talking about eating truma at night, because otherwise it would have said v'yitar. They didn't hear of that, right? Now, I also think, my suspicion is that they also hadn't heard of the initial brisa on Beis Amud Aleph, on the last thin line where it says, right, Kedetanya, Uva Shemesh v'taher b'yashimsho me'akvas melecha b'truma ben kaparos me'akvas melecha b'truma. Because what do they ask over here, right? We say that in Eretz Yisrael, in the west, they hadn't heard of Rabba bar Rav Shila. Uvau lamibaya, and they asked, Hay uva shemesh bias shimshahu umay v'tar yoma. When it says uva shemesh v'tar, is it talking about the sun setting, right, and the day passing? Or duma bias orohu umay v'tar gavra, just as we asked. Or maybe it means that the next day the sun will come and the person will come pure when he brings his korbanos. Radu pashtu lami brisa, and they answered it from a different brisa. And what does that brisa say? Midikatane bebrisa. From the fact that the Brisa says, Siman l'davar tzeisa kochavim, that what's a siman, what's a sign for when the Kohanim go to eat truma, is tzeisa kochavim. Shma mina bias shimshahu umay v'tar yoma. Oh, so from the fact that we say that when do the Kohanim go to eat truma, when can they eat their truma if they were tameh, we say at tzeisa kochavim. So obviously it's talking about night, and it's not talking about the next day. Now, the reason why I think that they also didn't hear of the first Brisa was because they asked, like, how do we know it's talking about the nighttime, not the daytime? They answer it from a brisa. So what makes this brisa any better than the first brisa, which says uva shemesh v'taher and bi'ashimsho me'akvas melecha b'truma? So I have the feeling that they basically didn't hear of this entire dialogue of the sun setting, this confusing dialogue. Sorry if anybody's confused here. There is a pause button on the podcast and on the YouTube, so feel free to use that pause button if you need to. think you can even slow it down if you need to. Anyways, so I suspect that they haven't heard of anything up till now, and they were asking, we have this pasuk that says, Uva shemesh b'taher. Is that talking about during the nighttime or during the daytime? So they say, look, well, we say that you can read Kriyat Shema at night from the time that the Kohanim go to eat their truma, and that's Seisa Kochavim, so it must be that they can eat their truma at night. Beseder. Okay. Weiter. Now for the rest of the page, we're basically going to be dealing with all sorts of times, right? All sorts of, when can you read Kriyat Shema from this metaphor? And then there's from that metaphor. We're going to have all sorts of metaphors. Nobody's going to say straight up, you can read Kriyat Shema like Atzeisa Kochavim or Shkia. Everything's going to be a metaphor right now. So, enjoy. Amar Mar. So we said earlier, Misha sheKohanim nichnasin lechol b'trumasan. When can you read Kriyat Shema at night? From the time that the Kohanim go eat truma. Vira minhu. But one second. We have a different price that says, when do you read Kriyat Shema at night? So when do you read Kriyat Shema at night? Not from when the Kohanim go to eat truma. You read Kriyat Shema at night from when a poor person goes to eat his bread and salt. That is when you could read Kriyat Shema. And how long can you read Kriyat Shema for? Until he's done with his meal, right? Till he's done with his meal. So one second. So now the Gemara says, okay, so the Gemara says, okay, the second part of this brisa certainly is a problem for our Mishnah. Well, not a problem, but argues on our Mishnah. That's fine. Mishnayos and brisas can argue on each other. Basically, I don't know if there's time to get into it, but I guess it is. What's a Mishnah? What's a brisa? Right? So, okay, initially all of the Torah Shebaal Peh, right, all of our traditions that are not in the 5 books, the Torah, so those were handed down orally, okay, just word of mouth, person to person. Now, eventually it became too difficult to remember everything, so Rebbe invoked a certain pasuk which says, Eis lasos laHashem eferu torasecha. It is the time to do for the sake of God. They are nullifying your Torah, i.e., basically, if he wouldn't have written it down, it would have been lost. So Rebbe then basically wrote down the oral traditions. And anything that Rebbe Yehuda, who's Rebbe Yehuda Anasi, wrote down, recorded, that was the Mishnayos. That's the Mishnah. Now, there's all sorts of other written down traditions that Rebbe didn't put into his Shisha Sidrei Mishnah. They're called brisas. These are these other traditions. And they are equally as valid as Mishnayos. They are authored by Tanaim. Tanaim are basically rabbis who appear in Mishnah and Braita, right? The rabbis who appear in the Gemara, who are basically discussing the Mishnayos and the Brisas and asking questions and things, those are called Amoraim. Now, an important point is that Amoraim can never argue on Tanaim, right? So if basically an Amora says something and there's a Mishnah or a Brisa that differs, that's going to be a problem for that Amora, and he's going to have to figure out how to make sense of it, okay? So now, in a nutshell, that's basically what Mishnayos and Brisas are. So basically, this Brisa that we just brought, okay? So the fact that it differs from our Mishnah is not that big of a deal because they're both Tanaim. They both have that same level of that same level in the hierarchy of being Tanaitic texts, okay? Fine. So now, the second part of this brisa that we just brought, which says that you can read Kriyat Shema from the time that the poor person goes to eat his bread and salt until he's done with his meal, that part is certainly sort of argues on our Mishnah, because our Mishnah, the most conservative estimation was that the window is from Seisa Kochavim until the end of the first watch, which is 4 hours, right? If there are 3 watches in the night, and we're going to get to this tomorrow, but basically if you assume that the night is 12 hours, so then a third of the night is 4 hours, right? Where this is, how long does it take to eat bread and salt? Tops a half an hour, okay? So the second part there definitely argues on our Mishnah. But who says that the first part argues on our Mishnah? Is it possible that maybe the poor person can eat his bread and salt at the same time that the Kohanim, who are Tameh, can now go and eat their Truma, which is also the same time that we read Kriyat Shema? Isn't that possible? So, right, so Seifa Vadai Pligamas Nisan, the second part of that brace, it definitely argues on that Mishnah. But Reisha Milema Pligi Amasnisim, do we have to say that the first part, the part that says that we read Kriyash Shema from the time that the poor person eats his bread and salt, does that necessarily have to argue on our Mishnah that says that it's from when the Kohanim go to eat their Truma? And the Gemara says, no, we don't have to say that it argues. It could be the same thing. The Kohen eats his Truma at the same time that the poor person eats his bread and salt. Okay, so far so good. When do you read Kriyash Shema? Tzeisa Kochavim, which is the time that the Kohanim eat their Truma, which is also the time that the poor people eat their bread and salt. Vira Minhu. 1 second. Is that true? Is the time that the Kohen eats his Truma really the same time that the poor person eats his bread and salt? We have another brisa. What does the brisa say? When do you start reading Kriyash Shema at night? Reb Meir says, when do you start reading Kriyash Shema at night? At the time that the people go to eat on Erev Shabbos. Okay, at the time when the people go to eat on Erev Shabbos. Okay, which is interesting because Rashi over here says that, on Erev Shabbos they can hurry up to eat because everything's already prepared from before Shabbos. But then later on he seems to be saying that this time would be later than all the other times, which I guess maybe makes sense because if he's going to shul or whatever, I don't know if he's praying and stuff like that, so it's going to be later than Tzeisa Kochavim and stuff. But whatever it is, we're saying that it's not at the time that the Kohanim go to eat their Truma, it's at the time that the people go to eat their Friday night Shabbos Suda. And the Chachamim say, when can you read Kriyash Shema? At the time that the Kohanim can eat Truma. Okay, very good. Sim l'davar tzeisa kochavim. And when do the Kohanim go to eat their Truma? Tzeisa kochavim. Read Kriyash Shema at night at tzeisa kochavim. V'afal pi she'ein raya l'davar zeich l'davar. Even though I can't completely prove to you that you can read Kriyash Shema at night from tzeisa kochavim, but I can kind of give you a good hint, a remembrance from Psukim in Sefer Nehemiah. Nehemiah is describing the conditions in which they had to build the second temple when they came back to Eretz Yisrael after the exile after the first temple. They came back to build the second temple, and listen to how he describes the conditions of how they were building the second temple. Shneimar, as the pasuk in Nehemiah says, "V'anachnu osim b'mlacha," we were trying to do the work to build the second temple. V'chetza machzikim barimachim, and half of the people were holding their spears, i.e. they were on guard to make sure that nobody was going to come and try to harm the builders. Me'alos ashachar ad tzeisa kochavim. They would be, half the people would be on guard, half the people would be working, and this would go from dawn until nightfall, right? Until nightfall, right? Because when it comes to the morning and the night, there's 2 times. There's dawn and then there's sunrise. And at night, there's sunset and then there's nightfall. So they're saying that they would do this work from dawn until nightfall. Ve'omer, and then the next pasuk says, and the nights were when we had to be on guard completely, 100% of the time, and we do the work during the day. So what does that mean? That means that in the first pasuk, when it says that they were doing work from the morning, from dawn until nightfall, in the second pasuk he then describes at the time that they were doing work as day, and the rest of the time being night. So what do we see? That day is defined as from dawn until nightfall, and night would be after nightfall, which means if we're talking about when can I read Kriyash Shema at night, it would be from after nightfall. Very good. So now the Gemara says, Maiva Omer, how come I need the second pasuk? Wouldn't it just be enough to have the first pasuk of we did our work from dawn until nightfall? So I don't know, what are those parameters? They're basically explaining day, right? From dawn until nightfall, right? Why do we need the second pasuk to say, and the time that we did work was what's called day? Why do I need that? So the Gemara answers because v'chi tema, because maybe you'll say that really day is not defined from dawn until nightfall, it's defined from sunrise until sunset. Right? Because v'chi tema, if you're going to say mechi arva shimsha le'elyahu, that the night already starts from sunset, you don't have to wait until nightfall, but from sunset. Right? Mechi arva shimsha le'elyahu, ve'inu dimechashke umakdeme. And they would get to work. They were good workers. They would get to work a little bit before the day even started. So really the day starts at sunrise. But they would get started a little bit before the day, already at dawn. So Tashma, therefore we have the second pasuk that says, Vayalanu alayla mishmar vayom melacha. Oh, that the night was when they would guard and the day was when they would do melacha, which means that the definition in the first pasuk of the fact that they would work from dawn until nightfall is what we refer to as day, which means that after nightfall is night, and at that point you can read Kriyat Shema. Great. That was basically a long-winded way of saying there's a machlokas between Rabbi Meir and the Chachamim. Rabbi Meir says that you read Kriyat Shema from the time that people go to eat their Friday night Suda, and the Chachamim say that you read Kriyat Shema from Tzeisa Kochavim. Okay, we don't know exactly when the people go to eat their Friday night Suda, but we know that it's going to be different than Tzeisa Kochavim. Now, the Gemara says, for some reason the Gemara wants to assume that the time that the poor person goes to eat his bread and salt is going to be the same time that the people go to eat their Friday night Suda, which of course is now going to be a problem, because we initially wanted to say that the time that the poor person goes to eat his bread and salt is the same time that the Kohanim eat their Truma. And if you say that the Kohen eats his bread and salt at the same time that the Kohanim eat their Truma, well then we're also saying that the Ani eats his bread and salt at the same time that the people go to eat their Friday night Suda. Well then, they're all basically saying the same thing. So Chachamim Hainu Rabbi Meir. Then Rabbi Meir, who says from the time that people eat their Friday night Suda, is saying the same thing as the Chachamim, who say from the time that the Kohanim go to eat their Truma, because both of them are the same time as when the Ani goes to eat his bread and salt. Which means Rabbi Meir and the Chachamim are saying the same thing, and that's a problem because they're presenting differing opinions in this Brisa. So they must be different opinions. So what are we going to say? Ela shmamina ani shur lechud v'choin shur lechud. So what must we conclude? We must conclude that if the poor person goes to eat his bread and salt at the same time that the people go to eat their Friday night Suda, then it must mean that when the poor person eats his bread and salt is a different time than when the Kohanim go to eat their Truma. So the Gemara says, no, say it the other way. Lo, ani v'choin chad shiurahu, v'ani uvnei adam lav chad shiurahu. No, we're going to keep what we said initially. The poor people eat their bread and salt at the same time that the Kohanim eat their Truma. But that is a different time than when the people go to eat their bread, to eat their Friday night Suda. Okay, very, very good. Okay, so far essentially we have two potential times to read Kriyat Shema. One of them is at Tzeisa Kochavim, and one of them is when people eat their Friday night Suda, whenever that might be. Okay. Frekt the Gemara. Frekt is Yiddish for asks. The Gemara asks, V'ani v'choin chad shiuru? Okay, again, right? We keep on challenging this. Is it really true that the poor person eats his bread and salt at the same time that the Kohanim go to eat their Truma? V'raminu. We have a contradiction to this. When do we begin to read Kriyat Shema at night? Or maybe Shekadesh Hayom Ba'arv Shabbosos Divrei Beliezer. So Beliezer says, when can you read Kriyat Shema at night? From the time that Shabbos comes in. When does Shabbos come in? Who knows? Sunset. Or really Bein Hashmashos, right? Bein Hashmashos is this time of like, we're not sure if it's day or night. So, right, and we're going to see that there are different opinions on how long Bein Hashmashos is. Is it the amount of time to walk 5 milin, right? Is it enough time? Is it just enough time to walk half a mil? Is it just like that? Is it, terrifying, like the blink of an eye? So there's different opinions, but the point is, once you get into this gray area where we're not sure when it's daytime or nighttime, at that point Shabbos comes in, okay? So the Ezra says it's not Tzeisa Kochavim, it's before Tzeisa Kochavim, at the beginning of this Bein Hashmashos period. Okay, fine. Rabbi Yoshua Omer, says Rabbi Yoshua, Mishash HaKohanim mitoharim lechol b'trumasam. At the time that the Kohanim are tahor to now go eat Truma, which of course is Tzeisa Kochavim. Okay? So we keep on seeing this come up, right? In our Mishnah, it was the Chachamim who said Tzeisa Kochavim. Then we had that Brisa also, the Chachamim said Tzeisa Kochavim. Now we're seeing Rabbi Yoshua is saying Tzeisa Kochavim. Seder. Rabbi Meir Omer says Rabbi Meir, Mishash HaKohanim tovlin lechol b'trumasan. At the time that the Kohanim go to the mikvah, so that they can then later eat their Truma at Tzeisa Kochavim, right? So when are they going to the mikveh? During the day. They go to the mikveh on the day of their last day of their purification process, and then later on they can eat truma. So to that, Amar Rabbi Yehuda says to Rabbi Meir, aren't the Kohanim going to the mikveh during the day? How can you read Kriyat Shema of the nighttime during the day? Okay, we're going to get back to that a little bit later. But it would appear that Rabbi Meir's opinion is the earliest of all of them right now. And if you're, maybe you're thinking like, didn't Rabbi Meir say earlier that it's from the time that the people go to eat their Friday night Suda? We'll get to that as well. Oh. So it would appear that Rabbi Meir is right now the earliest opinion in this brisa, which is during the daytime. Then we have Rabbi Eliezer, which is at the once it's Bein Hashmashos. Then we have Rabbi Yoshua, who says Tzeisa Kochavim. Now we have Rabbi Chanina Omer, says Rabbi Chanina, Mishasha ani nichnas lecho pito b'melech. Oh, Rabbi Chanina is now quoting our poor person with the bread and salt thing. Okay. Rabbi Achai v'amila Rabbi Acha Omer, Mishasha rov b'nei adam nechnasim lahasev. Rabbi Achai and some saints Rabbi Acha say that it's from the time that most people go to, I think lahasev, I assume it means to, they used to eat leaning on couches, right? So I assume it means that when most people go to eat their meal, and Rashi says, some say it's during the week, some say it's Friday night, but whatever it is, Rashi says it's a later shir than any of them. And I assume that it's the same shir as Rabbi Meir quoted in a previous brisa, which is at the time that the people go to eat their Friday night Suda. Okay, very good. So we just had, I think, 5 different opinions. One is the beginning of Bein Hashmashos, Kriyat Shema. One is Tzeisa Kochavim. One is even during the day, right? One of them is when the poor person goes to eat his bread and salt, and the other one is when most people go to eat their meals. So we have 5 different opinions on when you can read Kriyat Shema already. Some of them we know what they are, some of them we don't know what they are. And even the ones that we do know what they are, some of them are moving targets. Exciting stuff. Okay, fine. But here's the problem. Here's the problem for saying that the poor person eats his salt, bread and salt, at the same time that the Kohen eats his truma, right? If you say ani v'choin chat shiurahu, if you say that the poor person eats his bread and salt at the same time that the Kohen eats his truma, well then Rabbi Chanina, hainu Rabbi Yoshua. Well then Rabbi Chanina is saying the same thing as Rabbi Yoshua. Rabbi Yoshua says from Tzeisa Kochavim. Well, right. Well, Rabbi Yehuda says from the time that the Kohanim are tahor to eat their truma, and Rabbi Chanina says from the time that the poor people go to eat their bread and salt. So if you say that they're the same time, well then Rabbi Yoshua and Rabbi Chanina are saying the same thing. So elalav shma mina shiur the ani l'chud v'shiur the choin l'chud shma mina. Boom. So finally it's settled. The shear of the ani eating his bread and salt is one time, and the shear of the Kohen being tahor to eat truma is another time. We know that when's the Kohen tahor to eat truma? At night, at Tzeisa Kochavim. When does the ani go to eat his bread and salt? I don't know. Now the Gemara says, Hey minay mu'uchar, which one is later? The Kohen being tahor to eat his truma, which is Tzeisa Kochavim, or the ani eating his bread and salt? Which one is later, which one is earlier? So mistavra the ani mu'uchar. It would make sense to say that the time that the poor person goes to eat his bread and salt is later than when the Kohen eats his truma. The Amar the ani mukdam, because if you would say that the time of the ani would come before the time when the Kohanim go to eat truma, well then Rabbi Chanina hani Rabbi Eliezer. Then Rabbi Chanina would be saying like the same thing as Rabbi Eliezer. What's basically the earliest time that you can read Kriyat Shema, and it would be considered nighttime, and it's before Tzeisa Kochavim? Must be beginning of Bein Hashmashos. Well, that's Rabbi Eliezer's opinion. So it must be some point after Tzeisa Kochavim. Okay? Then it must be that the poor person eats his bread and salt some point after Tzeisa Kochavim, and I guess it's also before apparently when people go to eat their meal at night, because that apparently seems to be the latest one. Yeah, those are I think the most unclear ones. Basically when the Kohen, when the poor person eats his bread and salt, and when people go to eat their meals, when is it? I don't really know, but apparently we do know sort of the order of which comes earlier and later than the other. The earliest would be Rabbi Meir, says when the Kohanim go to the mikveh. The next one would be Rabbi Eliezer, says the beginning of Bein Hashmashos. Then Rabbi Yoshua, who says Tzeisa Kochavim. Then Rabbi Chanina, who says when the poor person eats his bread and salt. Then Rabbi Achai, or some say it's Rabbi Acha, say that it's when most people go to eat at night. Okay, fine. Let's go a little bit weiter. Amar Mar, we said earlier, Amula Rabbi Yehuda, V'ala Kohanim Yibod Yomin Tovlim. So Rabbi Yehuda said to Rabbi Meir, I don't get it, Rabbi Meir, how can you say that you read Kriyat Shema when the Kohanim go to the mikveh. Don't the Kohanim go to the mikveh during the day? So Shapir Kamer Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Meir. So the Gemara says, Rabbi Yehuda's taka saying good. He's got a good question for Rabbi Meir. So Rabbi Meir Hachi Kamer. This is what Rabbi Meir responds to Rabbi Yehuda. You know what he says? He says something brilliant. Misavar De'ana Abin Hashmashos Didach Ka'amina. Do you think that I hold like your Ben Hashmashos? Ana Abin Hashmashos to Rabbi Yossi Ka'amina. Dam Rabbi Yossi Ben Hashmashos Keref Ayin Zenichnas V'Zayotze V'Efsher Lahamud Olav. Oh. Basically, okay. When do the Kohanim go to the mikveh so that they can then eat their truma? They go to the mikveh before Ben Hashmashos. They can also go to the mikveh before them, but basically they have to go to the mikveh, up until Ben Hashmashos. Okay? Up until this gray area of when it's maybe day, maybe night. They have to go to the mikveh before then. So now, according to Rabbi Yehuda, so Rabbi Yehuda's opinion is that how long is this gray area of Safek Yom, Safek Laila? It's the enough amount of time to walk a half a mil. I don't know, how long does it take a half a mil? I don't know, maybe 10 minutes? I don't know, I think it's like half a mile, or maybe a mil I think is less than a mile, so I don't know, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it is, but it would, before that point, we would still consider it to be daytime. There's enough of a gap between nightfall and the beginning of this gray area that before that it would be still considered daytime. To which Rabbi Yehuda is saying, Rabbi Meir, I don't get it. How can you say that they can read Kriyat Shema from when the Kohanim go to the mikveh? Isn't that still daytime? So Rabbi Meir responds, says, look, I don't agree with you on how you understand this Ben Hashmashos thing. You say it's like enough time to walk half a mil. I hold like Rabbi Yossi's opinion, which is that, you know how long Ben Hashmashos is? Like the snap of a finger, or literally like the blink of an eye. Zenichnas v'zeh right? Nightfall comes, day ends, just like that. And therefore, when I say that they can go to the mikveh, before Ben Hashmashos, it's literally like right before nightfall. So it's already a time when B'shoch B'chav, it's already a time when people are starting to go to sleep. And it's actually, he's no longer the earliest opinion. At this point, the earliest opinion would be Rabbi Eliezer, right, who I believe says that Ben Hashmashos, either he holds like Rabbi Yehuda, I think he holds like the Ben Hashmashos of Rabbi Yehuda, or maybe a different opinion, whatever it is, but he says that Ben Hashmashos is a longer period of time. So when he says that at the beginning of Ben Hashmashos, he's actually saying the earliest opinion. And then would come Rabbi Meir, who says that it's literally right before nightfall. Zeu. That's when he says you can read Kriyat Shema. Let's just read 4 lines onto Gimel Amud Aleph, and then we're done with our first daf. Kasha de Rabbi Meir, right? So if you're paying attention closely, basically Rabbi Meir was quoted in 2 different brises today, right? One brisa he says you read Kriyat Shema from the time that the people go Le'asev, to eat their meal, which we said is the absolute latest shir. And then in our latest Mishnah, he says that it's actually before nightfall, right? It's when the Kohanim go to the mikveh. So the Gemara answers, Trei Tana'e Aliba de Rabbi Meir. It's basically 2 Tanaim who are quoting Rabbi Meir, which is interesting. How does that happen, that 2 Tanaim are quoting Rabbi Meir? What does it mean whenever we have Rabbi Meir's opinion? Does it mean it's not him, it's actually other people quoting him? And if this can it potentially be inaccurate? But maybe he changed his mind, and maybe he had different opinions at different points in his life, and this Tana was quoting this opinion, and this Tana was quoting a different opinion. But whatever it is, we have 2 different Tanas quoting Rabbi Meir's opinion in 2 different brises. So it's not him actually conflicting himself necessarily, it's 2 different people, saying what they presume to be Rabbi Meir's opinion. Kasha de Rabbi Eliezer. We also have a Kasha of Rabbi Eliezer on himself, because in the Mishnah, what does he say? The only thing that he argues on in the Mishnah is that he says that you can read Kriyat Shema until the end of the first watch. But he has no problem with what the Mishnah says, that what? The Rabbi Eliezer would say, when do you read Kriyat Shema? From Tzeisa Kochavim. Yet in this brisa that we just quoted, he said from the beginning of Ben Hashmashos. So what's Pshat? He seems to be arguing on himself. So we give the same answer. Trei Tanai Aliba de Rabbi Eliezer. We have 2 Tanaim quoting Rabbi Eliezer. Man, this whole Kriyat Shema thing is a huge mess, right? Look at all the different opinions, and even within the opinions, there's like different people quoting the different opinions. What a mess, right? So now, Viba Isema, with this we finish the first daf of Masechta Berachos. Reisha Lav Rabbi Eliezer, who he. You could say that the Reisha, the Mishnah, isn't actually Rabbi Eliezer's opinion. Rabbi Eliezer doesn't say that the time to read Kriyat Shema begins from when the Kohanim go to eat the Truma. He only says that it ends at the end of the first watch. We assume that he agrees that it starts at Tzeisa Kochavim, but that's not necessarily true. All he says is that it ends at the end of the first watch. But I can argue that when does he say that it starts? At Ben Hashmashros, like he says in this brisa. Shkoyach, everybody. Thank you so much for taking part in episode 1 of Babble on Talmud. I hope you followed. Please, any questions, comments, feedback, you can write in the comments on the video. You can send me emails at srili@babbleontalmud.com. That's in the description. And tomorrow is going to be a bit easier. So, cheers. Have a good one, everyone. Peace.